Welcome guys, good to be back. So I'm going to be doing a live series on the planets. So I'm going to be channeling each planet in our solar system and how they relate to our consciousness. And they've been coming through, and I've been meaning to do this for a few months now, and I feel this is the right time. And actually, as soon as I went to channel yesterday, it came through in full force. So as you know, the title says, we'll be working with the moon today. So this is a channeled message. Now the messages we're bringing through are going to be very important for this year. So it's very much about what they're offering us this year, what we need to tune into. So the messages and what they're asking us to do is for now. So yes, of course, there's been so much stuff written about the planets, how they influence us, etc., etc. But as we know, consciousness is changing, so the planet consciousness is changing as well. Planetary consciousnesses, should I say. So they will be affecting us in different manners and different ways, and they're also asking us to open up to the ancient knowledge that has been held dormant within our cellular DNA up until this point. So obviously, as we're shifting into this new Earth paradigm, it's important to be conscious of what is affecting us from the unconscious, but also the physical components. So we're going to come back to that energy and how it all sort of correlates and comes in together. We'll see at the end of this series. So this should take about 10-11 weeks. There may be some stars coming through as well. We will see as we go along, because obviously, as this year builds momentum, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening that is sort of I suppose times that we're not sort of, maybe we feel we can't handle or we don't understand. A lot of sort of turf that's been undiscovered, shall we say. So there's going to be things laying in front of us which our minds can become confused about, and this is really because what's happening, if you want to umbrella that term, it's really what's coming up from our own subconscious, which is all the sort of denied, repressed emotional energy from our multidimensional expressions, or interdimensional expression, should I say, which is basically our physical lifetimes on the current, on the Earth timeline. So yeah, there's a lot of things happening. What I want to say is that if we find resonance with the shift, and we will start to feel it more as the year takes off, especially after the end of March, when the energy really comes up. And it's really important to be gliding with that consciousness instead of being pulled up and down, especially with obviously what's out there at the moment, what we read, what we hear. There's a lot of swinging between opinions and fear and judgment and criticism. A lot of inadequacies coming to the surface. You're seeing it a lot more in people. You're seeing it in the news. You're seeing it, in the government. All the insecurities are starting to come out. There's sort of, there's a lot of. I suppose you have to sort of tune in and feel it more so than what they're yabbering on about. But it's the feeling underneath. You can see that they're uncertain now of their place, of what they're trying to do. That narrative that they've held together through misinformation is really starting to crumble, and it's making people very vulnerable in power, and we're really going to see that come to a head this year. So it's going to be interesting. The light is moving faster than I expected. I really thought we were going to have more of a draconian year, but what I'm feeling and seeing now, maybe that does not going to be the case. Maybe we're going to see a lot more light returning much quicker than maybe we thought or felt last year. I'm already seeing a lot of changes, which I wasn't expecting. So this is fantastic. And everyone, of course, is having their own subjective experience with all of this. Main thing is to keep the conditioned ego mind out of it, not to judge, not to have too many belief systems about what's happening, and everything, because again, those belief systems could be coming from a very conditioned self that you're not conscious of. So we really need to be careful what we're putting out there energetically through our mental field, because obviously we're feeding into human collective consciousness too much fear at the moment, and that's the problem. And ultimately it's meant to be coming up, but people don't know how to deal with it. So this is why obviously we do these videos, we have the courses, the teachings, and other people talking, try to give people sort of tools and techniques to navigate through this transformation. So I'm going to read off the moon essence, sorry, the moon message today, and this was channeled yesterday, so again very relevant. So I'll go for it now. All right, get my page open. Right, here we go. Alrighty, so I am a frequency you know well. I affect your tides, your atmosphere. I invoke psychic awareness to those that are ready to accept their truth. I deep dive into your subconscious to illuminate that which is denied. And like water, I am a reflection of the shadow self. All who invoke me in their meditations will feel a sense of homecoming, because it was I, the moon, that gave you a deeper understanding of your earth walk. I come forth today to explain to you all of my function as we shift and glide into your new earth dwellings. Trying to understand me through logic will no longer serve you, because like you, I'm a feeling being. I wish to marry you up consciously with your duality, your shadow self, so that you may participate in the earth's transformation. Too many run and hide from their shadow because they believe it's evil or scary. But what they don't realize is the shadow is scared of you, the conscious you. Because once you realize it has no power over you, it can be easily controlled and suppressed. But more importantly, the shadow has been a wonderful lesson in separation and the experience of the I am ego consciousness within the illusion of self serving realities and experiences. Now, judgment is the wall between freedom and servitude. For when you judge, you give power to your shadow self. Because one of the first energies created in the ego was judgment, and it has been used against you ever since, especially when it comes to God and religion. Judgment shuts down your connection to your soul, to expansion, and more importantly to the truth. Because to guard illusion, to guard the gift of separation, you must have an energy that creates confusion, misalignment, and malice. And I want you to embrace all shadow terminology as a beautiful experience of separation. Because over the next year, your shadow selves will be knocking on your front door, demanding trick or treat. Now, in conventional terms, you treat to defend your home from some sort of prank. If you don't, you can become on edge. You can't relax. It may even come from fear. And if you trick, you become defensive. And it's within that defensive that you create the very thing you are fearing. If you try to trick the world this year through a masked identity, it will shine upon you a scary version of yourself. So you pay attention to that which you are denying. And let me tell you this, if it happens, first, it's because I love you unconditionally. And second, your soul has given permission. Your soul can no longer be denied, and in many cases is desperate to awaken its human self. Focusing on ascension and being spiritual will not serve you if you don't acknowledge your shadow selves. And true ascension in your earth terms, on your current timeline experience, is actually being grounded, being human. That's what being spiritual is really about, embracing the human experience. I would like you all to speak to me on my new and full phase. You can ask me to carefully, respectfully, gradually mirror your shadow energy with the intention to acknowledge, love, and honor it. But more importantly, embrace it as the other half of you. All the glamour and the lights, the basal energies and desires you all love so much, have all been gifted to you from the shadow. But you must become conscious of the energies behind your earth experience and not dwell on duality as two opposing sides in battle. So coming back to judgment, this is the energy that protects your fear. So anytime you judge yourself or another, ask yourself, what am I really masking or trying to protect myself from? And then see how you feel. And if judgment is shadow energy used in fear, is it something you really want to keep doing? Do you still want to run from the truth? Do you still want to be unhappy, feeling stuck and frustrated in life? Have you ever really felt happiness? To open to this new earth consciousness, you must be willing to let go of your identity, to surrender to the fact there is much you do not know. You all know something is fundamentally wrong with your world leadership, that real answers are never given, that judgment plagues your radio stations, your television shows, your news outlets. And where does that give rise to evolution? What is really evolving on your planet through the mainstream narrative? If you look closely, nothing. And if it had evolved, you wouldn't be in the mess you are in now. Currently, the only thing different with your leadership and outlook on life is technology. Be careful what you believe this year. Question the narrative you are being sold. So really, because we've spoken about this before, we've mentioned that, the two energies of what we say shadow and light obviously is the same energy of the spectrum. I've said this many times. And I also said, that these energies are becoming so close now that they're just bouncing off each other like this. That's because the shadow energy is also trying to release itself from you. That's why it's become so overt, like we've discussed. That's why there was such a kerfuffle made about the COVID. You were meant to look at it and question it. It was meant to make the most unconscious person on the planet go, hang on, there's something wrong here, instead of just following blindly. So these energies, the shadow energy also has a purpose, and that is to deny us. So it's gonna speed that up. So that misinformation, all of that energy, that holding on to the patriarchal system, the shadow, the deeper shadow energy, it's like its last stand. It's trying to hold on with its teeth. So this is why there could be, or there will be in certain narratives, a spin on information that's going to be heightened, which again is also, of course, to create division in ourselves so we cannot ground light and keep us in that fear state, that survival state. Because as long as we're in fear and survival, we're not looking towards ourselves internally. So, of course, that's what it means, that these things are speeding up. But also, it will become such a joke that you just will not be able to take it anymore. What they say, what they're doing, the whole thing is just becoming a farce. So it's within that joke that we then can release ourselves. So we should be seeing a lot more mainstream people coming over to break human collective consciousness that is stuck or unilaterally polarized in separation and fear. Because obviously, the gift of separation, of illusion, that veil is starting to lift now as well. Of course, it's still a choice. You don't have to choose that. But obviously, the planet, consciousness, humanity as a whole is moving in that direction. So, it's better to be on board than left behind in a sense. Of course, this fear that's still in human collective consciousness is starting to ease. So there is movement there. But I think the main thing is, like I said, be very, very aware of what we take in. Because like I said before, even the New Age movement has a lot of misinformation in it. Some deliberate, and some people just making things up as they go along. And there are a lot of people following these people, unfortunately. And there's still a lot of the old spiritual model in the New Age movement, which is becoming redundant now as well. So again, it's, I think as we go through this transition this year, in some ways less is more. because we don't want to be too much overstimulating the left brain or information and knowledge. Don't forget, all the knowledge was within us. We just have to remove the conditioning to remember it, and just obviously be guided and listening to intuition, being in the present moment, and just following what you feel in the present moment, and not making too many structured plans, because even a lot of plans that are made is so we don't have to feel our emptiness, or feel our loneliness, feel our desperation, feel our fear. So if we've got our diary entries full, we don't have to deal with ourselves. So again, just having nothing to do can be very, very scary for people, because it's going to bring up that which has been most denied. And as it said, you know, the soul is there banging on the door. We need to do this now. No one can deny that 7 billion people on the planet are going to go through this. We are already going through it, but it's speeding up now. So yeah, so anyone, you know, it's unconscious system, try to get them to be present. Try to talk to them in a way where they feel valued, but also can come into their pain in a way where it's not debilitating and overwhelming, and just creating space for people to feel themselves, feel their truth, feel their understanding. And then, yeah, so look, I mean, again, we just need to put out the intention, the universe will do the rest. And you know, when we put out an intention of, especially when it's light focused, the universe will bend light to manifest that intention around our reality. Again, this is, you know, this is what Einstein was going about, the quantum field talks about. It's about being able to manifest through imagination the outcome and desire. But most importantly, we have to be in alignment with the soul. You know, and again, less is more, because we need to be in a receptive state this year. It's about surrender to that feminine energy. The soul is feminine, and it's about coming back onto that soul path. And we are, again, moving back into the collective consciousness. But the first doorway is obviously to the soul, through our multidimensionality. But we must clear that emotional body so the heart can open, because spirit can only anchor in an opened heart. And the problem is most hearts is closed in human consciousness. And this is why we're finding it so difficult to move on. However, the light is doing its work behind the scenes. This experiment here is not perfect. It's this, you know, there's still a lot of unknowns. I believe a lot of things have had to change from the non-physical to get things moving. Maybe the way it wasn't planned originally. But again, that's the fun of having these experiences in physicality. Unknown territory. So, however, you know, the spirit, the highest aspect of our consciousness, is always in control, in a sense. Opening up to that energy, then it takes all the fear away, and it will be coming to that place of being a complete conduit for our life force. And that's where we're heading. All right, guys, thank you. I will see you again very soon. Take care.